No Brunson, no Deuce, no problem for the New York Knicks. They thrashed the Utah Jazz, get some revenge from that brutal defeat a month ago. We talk about it now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Gavin Shell, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's play-by-play broadcaster and the Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He's Alex Wolf, editor-in-chief of The Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrict.land and join Josh Hart and go ahead and follow them. Reminder again, this is Locked On Knicks, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And we also want to remind you to tune in to the Locked On Knicks newsletter. That's right. Your favorite podcast now is a newsletter introducing Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. You get writing from Alex and I, our team of national writers here at Locked On. And, of course, Josh Lloyd giving you the best every single day in fantasy basketball. So today on Locked On Knicks, we're going to break down how the Knicks were missing a guy who finished fifth in MVP and likely has performed well enough to deserve those kind of accolades again, and it didn't really matter. How Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns both made history, and how Payne was absolutely electric in some great ways and some bad ways, but he was electric, period. Alex, let's get started. I don't know. I guess just with the general dominance of this game, I mean, the way they separated in the fourth quarter, the energy throughout was ridiculous. I have some good numbers on that, but just a fun watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy if I say that I think it arguably felt more akin to like some of the earlier games this season where they were moving the ball around more, really slinging it around? I mean, I know Josh Hart always loves to joke at Jalen Brunson's expense about like, hey, pass the ball, buddy. Like, maybe if you pass the ball, blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't know. They were passing the ball pretty good. I mean, they had 31 assists, which I know is not like exactly blowing the roof off compared to what they've done at some points this season, but something about the way that they were playing offense, the way that everything was flowing. And look, I'm not going to make some point like, like a lot of people last year in the playoffs were like, oh, they're better off without Julius Randle. No, they were not. They were never better off without Julius Randle. Like that was, if they had him, they probably win that second round series. They were probably an Eastern Conference Finals team, whatever. Like no matter what, he was a really good player and the team played really well with him out there with OG Anunoby and everything. So I'm not going to say like, oh, they played better without Jalen Brunson, but I'll just say they played surprisingly fun without Jalen Brunson. And I don't know, am I crazy for saying that like, it felt a little more similar to some of the early games this season where they were really like, I don't know, where things were just a little more democratic, a little more just passing the ball all the time versus the sort of Jalen heavy version that we've been getting lately.
So here's my caveat version of this, and I think it's important to caveat this. Against bad teams, I think they might be more fun to watch without Jalen, just because it gets a little, to your point, a little heliocentric at times. It's a little bit similar to his former running mate in Luka Doncic. Like, and I don't want to say it's him being a ball hog, but it is a little bit of that. Like that stat came out earlier in the year that he had the ball more than any other player in the NBA. And it feels like that at times. And you watch the game against the Washington Wizards and you're like, he is completely unstoppable and maybe he should get the ball, but you don't get to see like all the quirks that make this team so incredible, like just like the full like breadth of Cat's offensive ability, which I'm sure we'll go deeper on. But just like I think tonight, like if you wanted to show someone like this is Cat's Oscar film, or is all maybe I can just say it's his all NBA film, in the sense that like if you were just to show like a flash cut of like this is what makes this dude great, you could show tonight from Cat, you could show tonight for Mikal, you could show tonight for Josh. You could certainly show tonight for OG the way he shut down Larry Markin and the way he was just bullying the Jazz inside. Like the individual greatness of these four guys really shine through. And sometimes when Jalen Brunson is out there, like Brunsoning, particularly against a bad team that just can't guard him, and it's hard to justify anyone else taking a shot, like you just don't get to see that. So I think it was cool to see what makes all these guys so special.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think part of it too was that led to them pushing the pace a lot more too. I was actually just while you were talking there. I was listening. I was watching some of Cameron Payne's assists, watched some of Josh Hart's. And I mean, these guys really just from the word go came out and were like, we're going to try to play the passing. I mean, Cam Payne, like he's not Jalen Brunson, but on defense, I think at his best, he is certainly more of a pest than Jalen Brunson, especially against a team with, younger players that are still learning to handle the ball and still learning to, go against a truly good defense and whatever. I think that he could be a menace, and him out there with Bridges, with OG Anunoby, with Josh Hart. I mean, they combined as a team for 10 steals in this one, which is a little higher than usual. And like 3 of those went to OG, 1 each for Kat and Josh, 3 for Cam Payne, and then 1 each for Landry Shaman and Precious Achiuwa. But no matter who was out there, like whether it was the sort of smaller lineup with Precious out there, whether it was the bench lineup with Kolek, who got some minutes in this one, like it seemed like the word of the day was pace. Like that seemed like, if this is Sesame Street, that's what they came out there looking to do. And, I think that they just really zeroed in on that as their big thing in this game. And that is sort of something that can suffer a little bit with Jalen out there too, and again, it's like, he's one of the best half court players in the NBA, which is going to be great in the playoffs and everything. Like, as we've seen over the last 2 years, I mean, he's a phenomenal playoff player, whatever, but for a little regular season basketball, a little beaten up on the Utah Jazz, who have 4 wins, something like that. Not very many. It doesn't really matter. They're really bad.
There's 7. Yeah.
7. Oh, geez, a whole 7. But yeah, I mean, if you're just going up against a team like that and you're not in that Utah high up air that just saps the Knicks of all their powers, it can, like you said, maybe arguably be a little more fun to watch. The I don't even want to call them the B squad, but just the minus Jalen Brunson squad of this team just beat up on a bad team on one given night, and especially give guys like Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns a chance to like really shine in a game.
Yeah, I just think this was pretty easily the most energy they've had since the Wolves game. And we've come on these pods and I've seen comments on YouTube being like, all right, you guys need to be more excited. This team has won 7 games in a row, 8 games in a row. We should mention now this was their 9th win in a row, which is pretty awesome. I think one more would be the longest winning streak of the Tom Thibodeau era, if I heard Mike Breen correctly on MSG. So that would be pretty cool. And I'm like, why am I not freaking out? And it's not that, like, obviously, like the one Wizards game was kind of bad. Like they didn't pull away until late in against Orlando in the second Wizards game. It's more so just that like they've played slow and haven't played like some Josh Hart stuff aside and some Cat stuff aside, like haven't they played like slightly lethargic basketball for stretches. And this captured all the energy of the Timberwolves game and just concentrated it. I think because you got more campaign, because Josh Hart had to do more than ever, because OG and Mikal were both back in rhythm, because Cat, like, again, very similar to the Timberwolves game. I thought this was one of the 3 or 4 best games he's played all season. And you almost feel the need to say that every time he is 30 and 20. And now he's just routinely having 30 and 20. So maybe it's actually a top 7 game he's played all year. We can debate it next segment, but the point is the energy was incredible. The stats that stood out to me, you mentioned 10 steals. They had 7 in the first half, 21 fast break points in the first half. They finished the game with 34 fast break points. For some context on how ridiculous that is, Denver leads the NBA with 19.5. So that is pretty darn close, 5 points away from being double the tops in the NBA, at least in terms of average. That's wild. The Knicks finished with 70 points in the paint. Denver also leads the NBA in that category, 57 on the year, but just punishing the rim, getting out in transition. You said it, Hart and Payne and Cat, like over and over again, just looking for that outlet and looking to make that next pass. It was beautiful basketball. It was fun basketball. We'll dive into the nitty gritty next. What made it such a historic night for both Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns next on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Rocket RX. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you can get your free prescription today. So visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. All right, what up? We're back on Locked On Knicks. Karl-Anthony Towns, Alex, a casual 32 and 21. I'm going off memory. I'm going to check. Sorry, I inflated it. 31, 21, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 10 and 20, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 and 9 from the foul line. Just flat out. I know I say it a lot. I don't know if I was emphasized enough. He is a top 6 or 7, or if you want to punish the guy, 8 offensive player on planet Earth. He's ridiculous. I'm very happy he's a Knick. Another great game for him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think lots of history made in this one, or not made, but at least matched. And it seems like, we were talking about it before the show, and you said, like, seems like one of these comes out like every single game, and that's true. But this game had 3 separate historical landmarks that I all thought were really cool that they brought up on the broadcast. Josh Hart, second consecutive triple double with 15 points, 14 boards, 12 assists. He is the first Knick since Michael Ray Richardson to pull that off. I forget the year. I think 1980. So pretty. I mean, if you know about Michael Ray Richardson, like pretty rarefied air there. Like he had his issues off the court, but prior to that, I mean, he was a real rising star back in the day. So that's pretty rare company there. Speaking of rare company, Karl-Anthony Towns increasingly finding himself referenced with Patrick Ewing, the first guy since Patrick Ewing to have 3 straight 31 and 10 games. Of course, he went 31 and 21 in this one, so that's even crazier. But first guy since Pat in the mid 90s to do that, so that's insane. And then together they formed into Stats Voltron, and they're the first pairing since Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, if you want to talk about more rarefied air, to have a triple double and a 2020 game in the same game. So the fact that these guys are just doing this stuff game to game, I mean, look, it probably helps that Josh Hart played 45 out of a possible 48 minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns put in 37 himself, although which honestly not that crazy for him, if I'm being honest. Like, just kind of underscores how crazy efficient he was. 10 to 20 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. But these guys are just consistently going out there, and especially on offense, doing things that we haven't seen in a really, really long time with the Knicks. Crazy to say, Gavin, but also too, one of my highlights for Cat more so than the scoring. And I mean, the scoring was there whenever he wanted it. And like one thing that he did was get in for just some crazy dunks again. I mean, he was looking to, you've said this a few times and I'll say it now. Like, I didn't know that he was this aggressive with trying to find dunks. And I mean, he's been off the charts lately with the fervor that he's just like attacking the rim. Like, it's like every time he gets in a back down situation, he's looking to just turn that corner quick and get in there and like throw down a one-handed stuff. He managed to pull one of those off over both Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen in this one. But the passing really impressed me again. I mean, just his outlet passing. Again, another thing, I guess maybe I knew it was good, but I didn't know it was this good. I mean, he just first assist of the game hits OG Anunoby from like, I don't know. He was only maybe 6 feet, 7 feet away from the baseline on the other end of the floor, and then throws it the entire length of the court, just right into OG Anunoby's hands for an easy dunk. Just hit that one early on in the game, and then hit like Hart for a really nice reverse layup later on in the game, where he was posted up and sort of had a good matchup in that regard, but drew a triple team and then just hit Hart, just casual, like look over the shoulder. And another one of those that I keep being amazed by, the like wrist control pass, where he just like does almost all the work with his hand and his wrist. Just phenomenal work from him there. I mean, he's just, you mentioned all NBA. I don't think it's sacrilegious or anything at all to start bringing that up already. He's having an all NBA season. And he might be pushing towards, I mean, I'll have to put together a candidate list at some point and see, who all is going to be fighting him for this. But with the positionless nature of it now and everything, like, could potentially be a first teamer this year. I mean, he looks really, really fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of how things pan out. But just, I mean, that nice historic 3-game streak and doing everything well right now for the Knicks. I loved everything about Cat's game.
Yeah, he's just a stupidly good offensive player. I know I'm running out of creative ways to say that, but it's really like there's just not a weakness there. Like I thought there would be, like, every night, kind of like I do with every other player in the Knicks, like there would just be holes to poke, and they're there defensively. They're they just aren't there on offense. Like you mentioned his aggression. Like I would say the thing that stood out to me tonight was, which I guess is like kind of a subsidiary of aggression, but just or vice versa, but just his activity level is so far beyond what I expected. Like just the number of times like he's like remember that Josh Hart rebound last game against the Wizards where he ripped it out of Kuzma's hands and then like tiptoed the baseline and saved it. Cat at like 7 inches taller basically did the same thing and like has the balance at like 7 feet, whatever he's 250, 260 pounds to like stay on 2 feet and save it in. And like those water polo passes we talk about, that's also just like crazy balance, like just waiting it out, like angling like his core to just find the right lane to squeeze it into. And like the effort, like on a night to night basis, like he just plays so freaking hard. And I think the impression I got over the years of him in Minnesota was that he's super talented, but like he's going to do some dumb stuff. And I kind of thought of him as like a bigger, better shooting Julius, where like you were just going to get like these games and these stretches where he's asleep at the wheel. And he's just like, he's caffeinated. Like I'd go for it. Like he might be on bath salts some nights, like maybe not to the campaign level, but close to it. Like the activity level is just crazy. And then there's just not a weakness, right? Like to your point, he's blowing by Kessler and he's getting a dunk. He's hitting step back between the leg threes. He's posting up and pivoting and hitting a jump hook between a double team. He's firing outlets like a young Bill Walton or Wes Unseld. Like he checks every single box. And like the best way to frame it is what's the difference between him and Nikola Jokic? It's that Cat is for a big an A- to an A passer, and Jokic is an A++++++ passer, and maybe a slightly less harmful defender. But he's kind of in that universe, and Jokic might be the best offensive player of all time by some metrics. So Cat's crazy. I don't know if I've appreciated him enough. Just another ridiculous game against Walker Kessler, who's a darn good defender. But before we wrap up, let's jump to Josh Hart, who I think did just a lot of like took on a lot of the Jalen Brunson responsibility. Like he was the one mostly running pick and rolls with Cat, hitting guys out of that pick and roll, rebounding, running transition, and he had another fantastic game.
Yeah, and I mean the passing for him too. I mean, I think that was what stood out to me as well, and it's what usually pops with Josh Hart. You know, he didn't really have to do what he did in the last game and bail out the offense. You know, like he just kind of found his way to 15 points. You know, he didn't shoot the best from 3, only 1 of 4, but managed 6 of 12 overall shooting, which, you know, I love doing this math always, but if you take away the 3-point attempts, that means he shot 5 of 8 from the field otherwise. So, I mean, solid game in that regard. You know, just cutting, getting to the hoop, getting out in transition. But much like Cat, I mean, he had an absolute dime of a pass in transition too. Like it was clear that the message to them, I don't know, like I didn't look up Jazz pace numbers, but I guess they must be, they don't particularly love to run because it seemed obvious, or at least like their transition defense is easy to be exploited, because it seemed like the Knicks just came out with the game plan of like, we're going to take advantage of these guys in transition. And like Hart was as big of a part of that as campaign, as Cat, you know, as OG and Mikhail getting out and running. Like Hart kind of took on the biggest onus of that, where he was getting a lot of those rebounds and then starting to break himself with the 14 boards, which for most players would lead their team, except for when you're playing with Cat, who had 21. But, you know, he just like a really nice outlet pass to Mikhail at one point, kind of early in the game. Like he, similar to what Cat did with OG, but instead Hart placed it a little closer, because then Mikhail just stepped into a 3-pointer and made it right there. I mean, just really good vision there. And he just always had his head up. And I think to your point too, he was given a little bit of that responsibility of Brunson. So was campaign. You know, I think that they just sort of, it was like Hart maybe took on 20% more possessions than he normally would have, you know, of running the pick and roll and stuff like that. And then Payne was, you know, handling his as well. Although a lot of Payne's damage was done in transition too, of just being an eyes up passer there, and, you know, being really good at identifying and drawing the defense in, and then, you know, feeding a guy around the back. But yeah, it was just another super well balanced, awesome game from Hart. And, you know, that shows in a triple double. Like, I know not all triple doubles are created equal, but for the most part, that just means you did a little bit of everything in this game. And Hart just kind of did that again, like he makes a habit out of. He's now up to 10 triple doubles for his Knicks career. I mean, the fact that he's at double digits and hanging out with guys on that list that were like career Knicks is kind of crazy. And it makes you wonder, if he has another 3-4 years left in him with the Knicks, like where does he end up on that list? Does he surpass Clyde Frazier, who has, I think, 22? I think there's a really good chance. And, he's sort of become the Knicks version of like a Draymond Green or something. Like he's just their glue guy. He's their unsung hero that, is going to go out there and do all the dirty work and get all the stuff done for you that you need done and make sure that you win a game. And I totally love that experience and love having him on the Knicks. But another guy that I really liked in this game was Cameron Payne, who we're going to talk about in the next segment, maybe do a little housekeeping, talk about Mikal Bridges, who we haven't talked about yet, who had 27 points. OG Anunoby being an absolute defensive demon again, summoning another 5-stock performance. And doing a lot of that damage in the second quarter or late first, early second. So lots more to talk about when we get back in just a moment. But first, we want to let you know about our friends over at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. And one of my favorite features was they have the subscription tracker, which, will be honest, is what they told me to talk about here. But I'm also going to talk about their bill renegotiation. One of my absolute favorite things, if you've ever had to call like your cable company or like, your internet provider, who might also be your cable company or whatever, miserable experience. It's like a wasted 2 hours of your life. Instead, Rocket Money will do that for you. Call them, sit on hold, go through the renegotiation process, get them to give you the deal that you could have been getting the whole time. And then they charge you, they let you pick how much you pay for it, but it's usually just a nominal fee, a small percentage of what they save you over the course of that next year. 100% worth it. Cannot recommend Rocket Money enough just for that. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on, rocketmoney.com/locked-on. All right, Gavin, we're back in to finish talking through this. As you pointed out, I blocked that last Jazz game out of my head, but this revenge game over the Utah Jazz, 119-103, the Knicks beat them, win their 9th straight game. Maybe the one thing we maybe should have brought up that we haven't brought up yet, cruising towards a crazy battle of win streaks this coming Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is going to be a national TV game. Don't understand how it's not. They need to flex that one in a national TV because it's going to be the Knicks riding a 9-game win streak versus the Thunder riding an 8-game win streak on Friday. Isaiah Hartenstein facing the Knicks for the first time. All kinds of crazy stuff going on in that game.
Yeah.
So,
Alex, I think officially a 12-game win streak because they don't count that NBA Cup championship, which I think is dumb, but quote unquote 12-game win streak.
Okay, well, there you go. That's true. I think I was only referencing that number because I think I heard it on the broadcast. But yeah, either way, that's sick. So yeah, an even bigger battle of win streaks. And that is true. They don't count as all part of the NBA Cup. Here we go.
Yeah, sorry,
NBA Cup's over, and we're about
we can move on. But yeah,
it's over. It's over. We don't have to crap on the NBA Cup anymore. A guy I could not possibly crap on after this game, despite the fact, I mean, if you just looked at the box score, if you're just box score watching, you might have been like, oh, he must have been chucking or whatever. Like Cam Payne shoots 2 of 9. Which, maybe would make you think, oh, geez, not a great game. But 8 points, 9 assists, 3 steals. He was like energy personified in this game. I thought that and I mean, again, I don't want this to sound like a knock on Brunson, but it unlocked a different style of play for the Knicks. Like late in the first quarter, early in the second quarter. I mean, he was just out there zipping around. Like he got a number of steals. He had 3 of them total in this game, but was just playing the passing lane super aggressively, which, can be a for better or for worse situation. But when you're playing like a young team like this, it's just frankly not very good. That's the way to play them, I think, because they're going to make more mistakes than your average good team. As far as, making passes that are a little too telegraphed or whatever, and that you're able to get in there and just grab. So he managed to pull some of those, but just in transition, I mean, I feel like almost every one of those 9 assists was just him sprinting down the floor, drawing the defense in, and then letting, a Mikal Bridges or an OG Anunoby or a Josh Hart get backdoor and then just lacing a perfect pass right into their breadbasket, and they would just get a nice, easy layup or dunk. Saw it happen time and time again. He just really pushed the pace. I thought Payne, it was a shame, I guess, a little bit that Deuce was also out in this game. We could have potentially seen a Deuce starting lineup with these guys, but Payne honestly made a case for if Brunson has to be out any other games and the team's at full strength otherwise, I might just start Cameron Payne and let Deuce still come off the bench, because he seemed to be exactly what the starting lineup needed, and exactly what they needed against this Jazz team, where they were able to really take advantage of some subpar transition defense there.
Yeah, Alex, I told you recently I got a new puppy. You can confirm for everyone, it's pretty cute. But when he's sleep deprived, he just kind of like stumbles around like he had like 8 shots of absinthe and just starts trying to like jump into the side of the couch and like hops around and just does crazy. The word I'll use is stuff because I can't use the other word. He just does crazy stuff. That was Payne in this game. It felt like he was unleashed. And he was like, well, you know what? There's no other guards. Tibbs can't pull me if I do crazy stuff. I'm going to be insane. And that's what it was, because all of his best plays early in this game, like, didn't end up actually being good for the Knicks. Like, he hit a nice 3 and it got wiped off like 4 minutes later because his foot was out of bounds. He absolutely toasted Walker Kessler on a hezzy crossover. He missed the layup. Played really great pressure defense on Keontae George, and then got too rabid and committed a foul. But then from there, he started doing really positive things, like had this great recovery where Jordan Clarkson beat him. And this is actually something Mikal Bridges could take some notes on, right? Like how to get back when you're behind on a screen. And he just never gave up on the play, hustled back, poked the ball away. My favorite play from him the entire night was when he spotted off ball Lauri Markkanen curling off a screen, and that OG got pinned, and he realized it was going to be him versus Lauri at the rim. And he's like, all right, I have no chance in that matchup. So what's the only thing I can do here? And he shot in full speed, like a linebacker going downhill on a running back, poked the ball away, got it to Mikal for a layup in transition. And then to your point, like just creating shots in the half court, like at one point, drew 2, hit Cat on a great cut. Another thing Cat as well, off ball mover, apparently. Hit Cat on a cut for a layup, picked off a pass, pull up 3, like just a really, really fun game from him. How about OG Anunoby next, Alex? We've been complaining about him, I think me more than you, on and off, but vintage game from him. 22 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 5 stocks. I've been saying he should sit one, he should rest, and he was saying, I don't need no rest. I'm ready to roll. Really physical, bullying game, and he was awesome. And he shut down Lauri Markkanen. We should know Markkanen started this game just 1 for 8. I think his final stat line was not good. It was 6 for 22, 1 for 10 from 3. So shout out to OG Anunoby, about as OG Anunoby of an OG Anunoby game as you could have. And that is the highest compliment that I could pay him.
Yeah. And, he really made Markkanen's life hell. I mean, right from pretty early on this one, like I would say right around midway through the first quarter, the Knicks kind of like, right around the time when, Breen was starting to talk about like, oh, the Knicks talk about, how, or like Josh Hart has had quotes about like how, they need to wake up sometimes or whatever. Right around that time, the Knicks woke up. And it was, I think, largely thanks to Payne on defense and then OG Anunoby on defense. And I mean, he destroyed Lauri Markkanen. Like, it was not even close. Like, blocked a jumper of his at one point, which should not be able to happen. Like, Lauri Markkanen is like 7 feet tall. Like, he's big. Like, he's bigger than OG, and he just like swatted that. The best one for me was just, I think it was shortly after the block. I don't think it was before. It was like he got that block, and then like the next possession or 2 possessions down the floor later, they're just trying to do a simple exchange of the ball. Like, it was someone trying to hand the ball off to Lauri in like a dribble handoff, and OG just like gets a hand in.
Clarkson. Yeah,
right. And OG just gets a hand in there, takes it for himself, and then just goes right down the other end, dunks it. That felt really demoralizing to the Jazz. I feel like that was, I think, kind of the turning point of where it was like, okay, the Knicks are just going to win a laugher and just keep them at arm's length from here on out. But it was really, I think, the return to form in the stocks department that was the biggest thing for me for OG in this game. Granted, also really good offensive game, 10 of 16 shooting overall. Didn't really have to do much 3-point shooting, but carried over his good play from the second half of the last game, which is good on offense. So hopefully we're about to see another, strong upward curve for OG on offense again. and certainly they'll need everything they can get against the Thunder on Friday. So having OG locked in, I mean, just overall 55% shooting for the team in this one. And, all the guys you would want to be shooting well, all shot really well. Like OG 10 of 16, Josh 6 of 12, Cat 10 of 20, Mikal Bridges 12 of 17. Like Campaign shot 2 of 9, but like that won't matter as much if you get Jalen Brunson back in the next game. They're definitely kind of at that point where they're clicking on all cylinders right now, heading into probably the biggest regular season matchup in the NBA so far this year, I think, on Friday. So that's really great. I figured before we start wrapping up, I want to shout out Tyler Kolek, who got some minutes in this one, played like 40 minutes in Westchester earlier in the day and had like 30 some odd points, like had a really huge game for Westchester. And then thanks to the injury woes, gets like immediately shuttled back down to MSG. It's like, buddy, you're playing tonight. Like, sorry, you thought you were going to get to just ice your knees on the bench or whatever. No such luck. Played 12 and a half minutes, shot 1 of 2. Had 4 assists. I mean, same deal with him as what I've been saying for everybody. Just was intent on pushing the pace right away. Managed to succeed on that. Hit Precious for a nice dunk in transition at one point where he kind of just pushed it forward to him a little bit. So it was just kind of a heads up play of like he could have picked it up and started trying to dribble it and make something more of it, but kind of just like put it right into Precious's hands so that he could go in for the dunk, which just shows a certain level of savvy. But then ran the floor, hit Mikal for a nice one in transition, and just in general, kind of was doing a lot of the same things the Campaign was doing, which I think we both knew was kind of going to be the case even earlier on this year. Like we were saying, oh, maybe Kolek is going to take his job by a certain point, as far as Campaign as like the primary backup to Jalen Brunson. I don't really think that's going to happen at this point, but it is good to see that he's starting to fit into the system and overall what the Knicks want. And, at some point, who knows? Maybe, we just saw a game where Brunson and Deuce were both out. Maybe there's a game at some point where Brunson and Campaign are both out and Kolek has to get a start or something. I can see it working out really good because he kind of just fits like a glove with this personnel and is really good at throwing those pocket passes to good cutters. And the Knicks have plenty of great cutters. So really good game for him. Nice kind of return to the NBA level and a chance to, actually play a few minutes in a game that where he wasn't just playing, like the last 4 minutes where the Knicks were up by 30 or whatever, where it didn't matter. It was nice to see him play like actual real NBA minutes for a little bit today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'll shout out Mikal Bridges because you said it. He did have 27 points. He didn't do anything else. He had 1 rebound. He had one great block where Jordan Clarkson threw like 4 pump fakes at him and Mikal just sat there and then just dismissively like swatted it down the court. That was cool. But outside of that, no assists, no steals, no turnovers, 1 or 2 from the foul line. Just a super efficient game. And it was pretty much all in transition. Like I counted, if you include 1 he got fouled on and then made the free throws, I think 4 transition layups in the first quarter and had, again, if you count the free throw one, 6 total for the game, which is just a crazy number for a guy who I said it last pod, so I won't belabor the point, but would go weeks without a layup seemingly earlier this season. That's really cool. Hit a wing 3 early. That was great. And just the off ball movement and like how he runs in transition, like that Kolek assist you mentioned was because Mikal, maybe credit Jay Wright and Villanova, but just perfectly filled the lane. It's really late here. And it was something Mike Breen said on the broadcast, like textbook fast break. Like, it was just perfectly run. And Kolek, to bring this full circle, like that's what he brings to the table, right? Like very like rudimentary, almost sounds like a diss to him, but it is like build a point guard, like print a point guard off a factory line. And Tyler Kolek does exactly that. Hit Precious Achiuwa for a no look. Precious hit a corner 3. I feel like he's made, 3 of his last 5, 3 of his last 4 from the corner. Like that's an encouraging sign for the Knicks. All in all, we can wrap it up. Fun game, great moments from pretty much everyone that got in. And after a couple of slogs like this, it was good for my soul, I'm going to say, and sets up, to your point, like maybe the Knicks' most important game of the year and one. I think we'll find out a lot about them. The upside of a pretty horrible schedule is that they could win 9 in a row. The downside is we don't always know if they're just really, really good or if they're playing like a championship contender. I think that Oklahoma City game and seeing our old buddy Isaiah Hartenstein for the first time this year will go a long way to telling us just that. But until then, he's Alex and I'm Gavin. We'll talk to you very soon on Locked On Knicks.